Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we go to a planet with 9 billion souls, how are we going to be able to provide the basic infrastructure, the food, the fuel, the fiber, everything else that they need for an increased quality of living? And we're going to be exploring this as it relates to Native Americans within the United States specifically. There's 566 federally recognized nations within the United States. And we're going to be talking about two of those different groups, the Apache and the Hopi Indians, and what's happening as far as off-grid development of infrastructure. We have a gentleman, he's coming in by telephone, Mark E. Snyder, who is the president of Mark Snyder Electric, and he's president also of Global Solar, Water, and Power Systems. And right beside me is our special guest. Welcome to have him back, is Michael G. Lee. He goes by Mike, and he's senior partner at Tower Up Consulting. And Mark, welcome to the Emerald Planet. Is Mark, are you here?
Mr. Hancock.
Oh, there you are. Okay, we thought we had lost you there. Anyway, we just introduced you, Mark, and introduced our special guest, Mike Lee, who you know. And welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you very much.
Well, tell us a little bit about Mark Snyder Electric and also this Global Solar, Water, and Power Systems and the history of that, some of your objectives. And then we'll talk about the work you're doing with both the Apache and the Hopi Indians. Okay,
great. Well, I've been in business as Mark Snyder Electric for about 37 years. It's a family-owned business, and we're located, our main office is in Poway, California. That's in San Diego County. And we have a satellite office in Flagstaff, Arizona, and we're opening a satellite office in Sacramento, California. And we've been providing and installing solar panels ever since it wasn't popular. Back 37 years we've been installing panels. We have thousands of off-grid systems across the U.S. and we've been installing high-efficiency systems, especially has been our specialty. And we've been doing tracking systems. A lot of these ZoneWorks tracking systems that have been that we've installed in Southern California and also Arizona and other states. And we've been we started out as an electrical contractor, and I just got very interested in this, and I started as kind of a hobby, but then people kept wanting it done, and it just took off. And then we naturally got involved in energy efficiency as part of our overall program because these people that lived off the grid, solar was very expensive, so we tried to make it as energy efficient. And then we added on solar thermal hot water systems and hot air systems and compressless air conditioning systems until we had an entire really dynamic package. And also part of my work in San Diego has been, back in the early years, I had a great interest in forensic electrical work where we did fire, flood, and explosion work. And we've actually been working for the San Diego utility in their claims department as an independent contractor for 30 years, supporting them with forensic work.
Yeah, my goodness, Mark, that's quite a history that you have there. And congratulations on these years of work. We've been around 41 years, so we've been running in parallel almost about the same period of time. And we started looking at energy efficiency and energy independence back during the first oil embargo back in 1973. But tell us a little bit about your company and its work with the Navajo and the Hopi Indians. And why did you decide to get involved with the elders there and to take these technologies, both in water and renewable energy, out to the nations?
Well, it's actually very interesting. I started as a youth. I ended up, during the hippie era in Sedona, Arizona. I grew up in Southern California. I come from 5 generations of family farmers. So I ended up migrating to Sedona. I just loved the beauty, and the whole area there is extremely beautiful. And then I did my apprenticeship, actually electrical apprenticeship in Sedona and Flagstaff, Arizona in the late 60s and early 70s. And then I ended up, a friend of mine used to go up to the Hopi and Navajo, so I went up there with her, and I just loved the people and loved the whole area. And I ended up moving back to California, and then in 2007 I was invited by ABC Television to participate in the first Green Extreme Makeover, which of all places was in Pinyon for a very needy family there, a Navajo family that had a brilliant young child who was who got a NASA scholarship. He invented a solar panel there, a solar hot air panel that he heated his house with. And so we did the project there, and then I met my Navajo partner, Elsa Johnson, with ENA Solutions. And in 2011, we did a great project for the Navajo people. We did 40 off-grid systems there in western Navajo.
Okay, well, you've been very busy, and before Mike asks his question, I wanted to see if we have this 2-minute video. Is that ready to go out there? Let's look at this. This is Elsa Johnson, the partner that you were talking about, and doing wonderful work out in the nation's area. So if we can play that.
Great.
We have close to 20,000 Navajo families that are living off-grid, no electricity or running water, and a good majority of them will never be able to get infrastructure because of their location. They're either very rural, very remote, or in some instances they might be 10 miles from the utility. We've made this possible through this building, which houses not only the solar batteries and the 500-gallon water tank and the hot water heater, hot air panels, and the solar thermal, but we also included a compost toilet, hot shower, and then also sink. And so the family will be able to, these off-grid families will be able to have this, it's a luxury to them, believe me. Because I lived this way for the first 18 years of my life without electricity and running water, so this is luxury. And I believe this is the best alternative, and it's not as costly as expanding the grid in these remote areas. The panels on the side of the wall of the IMPES building is the hot air panels, and so the hot air panel will also warm the home in the winter time, so the family doesn't have to burn a lot of wood.
I tell you, I just, Mark, it's just really impressive the work you're doing, but it's just a real service to humankind, and that's why we really wanted on the Emerald Planet, because there's thousands of communities all over the globe that need this kind of technology and the work that you're doing. But I'm going to let Michael ask the next question. Mike?
Mark, I got to tell you, it's a real pleasure being on the show with you today. I have a real affinity towards working with the Native American tribes, and I've done quite a bit of work with them and done some things, and I just am so impressed with what you're doing. Could you tell us just a little bit about some of the special technologies, please, that are being used to provide the off-grid services to the Navajo and the Hopi tribes?
Yes, thank you. The special technologies that we developed, fortunately, I drew from some of my experiences from the past, as well as my forensic experience. When we first went there and investigated what systems had been installed, we found that a major amount of systems had been failing because they did not take in consideration the climate and the dust and all of the environmental conditions. So what we did is we developed what we call the IMPUS. It's called the Entertopia Multipurpose Utility Structure, and I actually originally devised this for Darfur and the Sudan. I changed it for the extreme cold and extreme climate of Navajo. And what it does is the building heats and cools itself with solar power. The building is a solar device itself. What we do is we use solar hot air panels that during the daytime heat the panel, and the building is a super insulated building. We use a super insulation that was developed with NASA on the building. So on this particular building that you see, those panels on the vertical side are hot air panels. Those heat the structure. Anytime it's sunny, they heat up the building with 75, 85 degree air, and then we have solar thermal panels on top of the building that heat a solar thermal hot water tank to provide hot water for the building, and inside for the bathroom. And then we also...
Mark, we're going to lose you in about 24 seconds, so I need to cut you off. Where do you see the Mark Snyder Electric going over the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Well,
gotta be quick.
We continue to develop our projects with Native Americans and globally with our global solar water power systems. And we look forward to working more with you guys as you develop your programs across the globe also.
And we're going to have you back on. This is Mike E. Snyder, who's the president of Mark Snyder Electric and president of the Global Solar Water Power Systems, Inc. And right beside me, special guest is Michael G. Lee, goes by Mike, senior partner, Tower Up Consulting. And thank you for being with us as we look at these unique technologies taking out to the Native American nations as we create the Emerald Planet.
There's more than just books at the library.
There's more than just books at the library.
Excuse me.
There's more than just books at the library.
Il y a plus que de livres à la bibliothèque.
Hello. You have a lot of great books here today. You know there's more than just books at the library.
I know.
There's more than just books at the library.
I don't want to be hooked to a machine.
I want all the medical treatment available to me.
I wouldn't want my family to have to make this decision.
My doctor knows what's best for me.
An advance directive is your life on your terms. Talk with your family. Decide what's right for you. Then put it in writing.
Documenting my wishes today means my family won't have to make heart-wrenching decisions later.
To learn more, visit www.putitinwriting.org.
1,200 American youth run away from their homes every day. The National Runaway Switchboard is here to help. 1-800-RUNAWAY. If you are a runaway, Thinking about running away from home, or a parent or guardian concerned about issues facing your child, call us 24 hours a day. 1-800-RUNAWAY. In times of crisis, hope is just a phone call away. 1-800.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States. And we're looking for the best of the best, those 1,000 best practices in 144 different countries that are making a difference. And they're providing the food, the fuel, the fiber, the education, the health care, and all the other infrastructure that's needed as we have a planet that's going from 7 to 9 billion people by 2050. And how we're going to be able to take care of all those people is what we're talking about. And we're looking at what is going on within the United States on the Native American nations. There's 566 federally recognized nations in the U.S. And so there's much work going on, and these are very important issues, but also the technologies, the services, and the products that we'll be talking about and showing you are equally important, not only here but around the globe. We have someone who has actually quite a unique company. This is the Crown Battery Manufacturing Company out in Ohio. Chip Johnson is the Western Region Sales Manager. And right beside me is Michael G. Lee, who's been on with us before. He is the Senior Partner with Tower Up Consulting. And Chip, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thanks, gentlemen. Good to be here. Appreciate it.
We're glad to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about the Crown Battery Manufacturing Company. Many people would not think that we have such an old line and important battery manufacturing, actually, and research as well in the United States.
Absolutely. Even with all the consolidation, Sam, over the past 15, 20 years in the manufacturing world, Crown Battery sustained itself and actually shown incredible growth over the past 10, 15 years. By focusing on niche markets, deep cycle being the primary market that we're looking at now, which is, of course, an important part of the renewable energy world for the storage side.
So looking at the batteries is something that's really necessary, and many people don't think about that. They just think of solar panels and wind and low-flow hydro and all that, and not think that you really need to store that energy and use it at other times when either the sun's not shining or the wind's not blowing. So looking at what you're doing, how are you able to manufacture and produce a battery that's lighter, that costs less, but at the same time, you continually increasing the storage capacity?
Well, we're a lead acid manufacturer, Sam, as you well know, and there's a couple other technologies out there today, such as lithium iron phosphate, that are ever growing, but as a lead acid manufacturer, I can tell you that we feel that it's a proven technology. It's been around for many, many years, to the late 1800s till now. And even though the basic chemistry of the product has remained unchanged over those 100 or so years, there have been significant improvements in the individual components that make up that product to provide a very viable source for storage when it comes to the RE world.
So looking at, I'm going to do this follow-on, and I'm going to have Mike ask a question. What are you doing as far as the developing and doing the research so that you can constantly provide the very best battery as a backup so that you can actually store this and reduce the cost at a dramatic level?
Well, one of the things that we've been doing, Sam, at the factory is that we have a lab component to our manufacturing facility in Fremont, Ohio. And as we produce new products that are coming off of our assembly lines, well, even before they come off the assembly line, I should say, is that we're testing these products on a continuous basis in our own lab in Fremont, Ohio, to provide an array of products that address all aspects of the off-grid world, from very light capacity product to with minimal requirement, all the way up to microgrid requirements that are in the megawatt range.
Well, it's really good to know that you're there and you're doing this research and development. and actually manufacturing within the United States. Michael, why don't you ask the next question?
Chip, I have to tell you, I have used the batteries from Crown Battery, and I have to go along with your philosophy of staying with lead acid. I love your batteries. They've been terrific for us.
There's a couple of things associated with lead acid, Mike, that are, to be blunt, fallacy. They actually require maintenance, but it's minimal at best. And if we're working with contractors and implementers who are setting the batteries to the proper parameters, that maintenance becomes even less yet. So the critical part with the batteries, it'll be the one that exhibits all the symptoms of a problematic system, but they're all the ancillary things that revolve around the battery bank that can really affect the life. And the partnership that we've created with Mark Schneider over the previous couple years not only has been very enlightening for us, but we've used that knowledge to work with our other industries outside of the renewable energy world that also require deep cycle batteries, such as motive power, electric fork truck, material handling, and all those other ancillary industries.
Yeah, so you're talking about Mark Schneider of Schneider Electric out in California, and he's doing tremendous work with the various nations, specifically the Navajo and the Hopi. Michael, your question.
I had a three-part question for you, Chip. What are the total needs of the renewable energy industry for even better batteries in the future? Why? And how will Crown Battery meet such needs?
Well, I think what the better, quote unquote, Mike, what we're looking for there is the fact that the diversity is the key component. And with the wide array of various systems out there that require different power requirements, we can't focus on just one type or one specific capacity of product. We have to be able to address them all. And what Crown has done is we've really diversified our product line over the past 8 or 10 years to really ramp up towards the renewable energy world. And in terms of the manufacturing supplying to that industry, I'd say you'd be hard pressed to find another manufacturer that has the breadth of product that we have to address, like I said, very small systems all the way up to the microgrid as well.
Yeah.
Going forward from lead acid, Mike, then the other things that we're looking at is the Crown Battery has recently installed our own sealed lead acid assembly line in Fremont, Ohio. The AGM chemistry is what we're using there. Still a lead acid chemistry, but it's a sealed lead acid chemistry that is a totally maintenance-free product. And as the battery backup world expands into the renewable energy side and maintenance-free product becomes higher and higher in demand, Crown Battery is well positioned to address that market with our own manufacturing assembly line in Fremont, Ohio.
So looking at the work you've been doing on the nation, specifically with the Apache and the Hopi, what have you been doing to expand the types of batteries needed in very harsh environments where you have extreme heat during the days and you can have all the way down to below freezing at night? So how are you able to develop the research and development to meet those various needs?
Well, to be honest with you, Sam, we're at the whim of Mother Nature there, and what we need to do is partner with folks. Mark Schneider mentioned his EMPIS unit on his segment there earlier in the show, and the beautiful thing about that from a battery manufacturer standpoint is that it does take all the variables out of the equation for what that battery bank is going to be exposed to. So, the basic how the battery's put together, polypropylene case, steel jacket, whatever it may be, you are at the whim of Mother Nature. But if we can encompass or implement that battery bank into a very benign environment, such as an EMPIS unit, then all those variables that we worry about for long-term performance kind of come off the table at that point.
What types of best practices are you learning from your work with both of these nations, the Apache and the Hopi, that you have been able to incorporate into your batteries, and also to collaborate and work with the U.S. government who's through the Bureau of Indian Affairs working to bring better conditions to the various nations across the United States?
The one thing that we've kind of taken to heart with Mark on is that Mark's philosophy when it comes to the Native American world is that power to the people, both literally and figuratively. And I have to be honest with you, I was on hand about 18 months ago when we installed the first systems in, and the Georges family had their first system installed as part of it. And You know, being a fellow from the Midwest, you know, you're kind of detached from what happens in other parts of the world sometimes. And it was rather emotional to be on site to see that happen. That great picture, by the way. Just something that was special to be a part of, and to see something that really brings a better place of living for folks that have it pretty tough sometimes. I can tell you that what we've learned from that aspect of it is that the systems that Mark's put in place, for example, to make sure that the systems and the battery banks are properly maintained, is a kind of a wraparound program where we're bringing Navajo in to these systems to make sure there's a proper maintenance period going on with all the systems in the field, which really extends the longevity and the performance of the product over a longer period of time.
So what you're doing then is you're creating green jobs right on the various nations themselves, so that you have the people there actually can do the long-term maintenance and aftermarket care.
That's exactly right, Sam. And I have to tell you, the maintenance side of it's critical to the success of the program. As you guys mentioned in the first segment, there's a lot of failed systems out there in the world today. And there's a lot of different reasons for those systems failing, but I would say that probably at the top of the list would be lack of maintenance.
Well, I would agree with that. They say about 75% of all the deep wells in the continent of Africa actually fail within about 6 months, and they just sit there. People get used to the water, and then all of a sudden they don't have it because of the lack of maintenance or spare parts or both. So it's very forward thinking that you're doing and working with Mark Snyder Electric as you go on to the nations and really providing the technologies that really are appropriate for their conditions.
Honestly, Sam, it's a value proposition to us. We've never prided ourselves on being a low-cost supplier of our products to the marketplace, but in terms of the value that you get with our product and how we build it in conjunction with things like Mark's Emphasis system, when you put those two together, it becomes a really special system for the special platform for the folks in the market to look at.
Well, I put up this, Mike actually had another question, but we've just absolutely run out of time. But I put up this photograph here of some of the people that you've been working with directly out there. But what do you see for the growth of Crown Battery, say, over the next 5, 10, 15 years? And you have about 30 seconds left.
We've already pinpointed, Sam, our growth for the next 10, 15 years with Crown Battery is going to be in the renewable energy world. Basically from 0, 6 or 7 years ago, it's already become a significant part of our array of sales revenue. And as I see the RE world ever expanding, it's going to become a bigger and bigger focus for us going forward.
No, that's absolutely a perfect answer there. And thank you for being with us and sharing this. And I really like the notion that you have of actually working with the customer and making them part of the development of the product, but also part of the supply chain. That's a very wise way of doing it. Chip Johnson with us. He is the Western Regional Sales Manager, Crown Battery Manufacturing Company. Of course, Michael G. Lee sitting right beside me as the Skype backup as we create the Emerald Planet.
Osama bin Laden calls getting nuclear weapons a religious duty.
Today, materials that can be used to make nuclear weapons are stored in more than 40 countries.
Sometimes protected by just a chain-link fence.
Yet not enough is being done to lock down these materials
before terrorists steal them.
Why did we learn all this?
My mother.
My son.
My sister-in-law.
Were all murdered September 11th.
Help protect America.
Together we can.
Please join us.
The stem cell issue is being debated throughout the country. Truth is, most everyone has an opinion, even if they don't know the facts.
Let's stop arguing and start really understanding the potential of stem cell research.
For us and for millions of Americans living with disabilities, get the facts.
Call 1-877-842-3442 for free information from the Stem Cell Research Foundation. That's 1-877-842-3442.
Following the tragic events of September 11th, there have been hundreds of violent attacks against innocent Americans.
Remember what that flag you're waving stands for.
Remember, please stop the hate.
We're stronger when we are united.
Remember
what that flag you're waving stands for.
One nation under God.
Indivisible.
With liberty
and justice
for all.
In America, there's either room for everyone or it's not America.
Don't pick the wrong fight.
Let's keep America land of the free.
Stop the hate.
Planning a home renovation? Put this at the top of your to-do list. Because after 10 years, none of you are protected against tetanus and another potentially fatal disease, diphtheria. A minor injury, such as a cut or a scrape, can put you at risk for a tetanus infection. And while safety gear offers some protection, an up-to-date vaccination called the TD Booster is the best insurance against tetanus. So get the TD Booster. If it's been 10, do it again.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking for the technologies that will take us through the 21st century and specifically to 2050 as we go from a planet with 7 to 9 billion people. Yes, 9 billion people on this planet. And so we're looking at all the different ways that we're going to be able to provide the food, the fuel, the fiber, and at the same time to provide the basic infrastructure. And as the cost of infrastructure, both for power and water sanitation, continues to increase, is how we're going to be able to provide it, in many cases, off the grid. Because as over 300 cities on the planet will be what's called megacities, 20 to 30 million people in each one of these, and maybe up to 1/2 of them will be coming in areas where there's absolutely no basic infrastructure or the grid as we know it today. And so these off-grid alternatives are something that's very real, very needed. And we have a gentleman who's been working with this for some time. He's Michael Albrecht, who is the president of TBA Power, Inc. He's coming in by Skype. And then right beside me is Michael G. Lee, goes by Mike, and he's senior partner of Tower Up Consulting. And Michael, welcome.
Thank you, Sam, for having me.
Glad to have you here. And I'm going to bring up a couple of these slides so we can get started. But tell us a little bit about the origin and the purpose of TBA Power.
Well, in 2009, I noticed that there's a need for resource development services, providing highly specialized technical and management experience to resource owners in order to keep them in control of their resource and their destiny. At that time, I was working for a geothermal development company who did not want to provide such services to a third party. Their business model followed the classic developer approach, obtaining control over the resource and taking it from there. What's very important if you look at resource development with Native American tribes and all those other resource owners out there who want to stay in control of their destiny, want to remain the owner of the resource and see what they can get under better benefits for themselves out of those.
Yeah, well, you've been working in an array of different renewable energy sources and various technologies, but you really have been specializing in the geothermal power production. What makes geopower production different than other renewable technologies and also energy sources?
Yeah, geothermal is considered the sleeping giant, and I prepared some information for the viewers to see. The U.S. geothermal potential is about 600 gigawatts. To put that in perspective, the current nuclear power production worldwide is about 300 gigawatts, half of the U.S. geothermal potential. The U.S. geothermal potential is about 6 times the current U.S. nuclear power production. That means we are truly talking about a giant where right now the U.S. uses only 1% of the existing potential, as that graph on the screen shows.
Now, Michael, why do you think that we're using only 1% of the potential? And if we have such a tremendous resource base within the United States, why are we not exploiting that?
Yeah. Compared to other resources, geothermal is very complex. Let me walk you through some exploration steps to visualize that to you. You see there how we conducted on tribal land with the Pueblo of Jemez in New Mexico since 2009 geothermal exploration. It requires you to analyze the subsurface from the surface, similar to oil and gas. We are proud to having been able to employ up to 11 tribal members on our project there. If you go to the next slide, you see a multitude of analytical work that is done to present a three-dimensional image of the subsurface to decide where to drill. And all this is only done to get an idea about the resource, to make an assessment on whether you have really a geothermal resource or not. We talk about very expensive methods. In solar and wind industry with meteorological stations, you can get a decent information about the quality of your resource for, I always say, a 5-digit expense. In geothermal exploration, you should have about $5 million just to get started. In the next slides, you see there's some more detailed work, some of it done by the Los Alamos National Laboratory at this specific location. And once we have done all that analytical work, we go into drilling. And drilling costs are comparable to oil and gas. And you might have some more visual material for the viewer to look at. Here's a drilling plan that shows how we wanted to drill at this location after spending about, I think it was at that point, $1.3 million. And following that plan, you roll out the drill rig and spend another $3 million. So at the end of the day, geothermal has a need for a very high risk exploration capital. And that is the main difference between solar and wind. And that is why geothermal as a sleeping giant has not been tapped into. Another problem specific for the United States is in the 80s, the United States were leading in some very cutting-edge geothermal exploration and production. The Los Alamos Fenton Hill facility is known to many. And during the Reagan era, this $250 million R&D, research and development project, has been closed down, never to be used again. So that know-how moved on to Europe and has been continued there. So the United States has some catch-up to do, and the U.S. Department of Energy is fully aware of that and makes a great effort and great progress in doing exactly that. They gave the industry a real boost over the past 3 years. And we just hope that this can continue regardless of political powers and financial markets.
So I'm going to let Michael ask the next question, because that's really a segue right into where Michael's going and all this.
Given all these statistics and the information that you are just bringing forth, what do you think the future of the American renewable energy policy should look like?
Well, I think there's no other alternative but to make a decision as a nation to follow the successful example of other countries like Germany and even Kenya. Renewable energies are our only future. All other options, fossil fuels and nuclear, can and should be considered to be only temporary in nature. Germany was very successful with their switch over to renewable energies. Kenya has a very impressive and aggressive plan for the geothermal development over the coming years, hundreds of megawatts being added. They are excellent in what they are doing and establishing themselves as one of the main players on the African continent. And the United States just needs to have the will. If you spend 1 million spend 1 month of expenditure for one of the oil and gas wars for geothermal, the complete picture changes dramatically.
Well, that's really a complete answer. Looking at the work that you've done, the professional experiences, also the research and development, how has your work with the Native American nations, specifically the Navajo and the Hopi and others, really helped to expand your understanding about geothermal? And at the same time, how can these resources be developed with the Native American nations and actually contribute back to the greater part of the United States economy?
Yeah. Thank you for asking this question. In my professional life, I was exposed to many different cultures and countries. I'm originally from Germany myself. I traveled extensively and worldwide, worked worldwide as well. I learned to respect and cherish cultural differences. I had to find out that regardless of where you go, you will find good people and good food. No need.
Here,
like
here.
Yeah, we're all about that. Okay, back to geothermal.
No need to impress with anything else but your character towards those people. And many nations, many Native American nations have land that is of interest for geothermal exploration. We were glad to have obtained the largest geothermal exploration project in the state of New Mexico within the past 25 years for the Pueblo of Jemez, an effort that is still ongoing, and we need to see this more often. And like so many landowners, tribal or not tribal, at the end of the day, there is no difference. Like so many landowners, folks don't have the very specialized know-how on how to develop a resource or assess whether they have one, and then orchestrate this large type of project with so many vendors, so many activities to come at the end to a reliable assessment and capacity assessment of their resource with an attached economical model and development plan. And so we just need to continue enabling Native Americans to have such projects, and we need to discontinue providing a lot of projects focusing on studies, on paperwork, but instead providing projects that focus on making a difference physically, installing microgrids like Mark Snyder does it, installing drilling wells, not just theorizing about hydrogeological circumstances, but actually drilling out of such projects, and so on and so forth. And there's a deficit in this regard over the past maybe decade.
Michael, we're running out of time. We only have about 15, 20 seconds left. What do you see for the next 5, 10, 15 years for the growth and development of your own company?
Well, in order to be more independent from political changes and changes in the financial markets, TVA Power certainly will explore more avenues towards smaller projects, off-the-grid solutions. Again, look at Mark Snyder and his excellent work. We now cooperate on another tribal project as well, and implementations of such system. And we look into further international opportunities.
All right, Michael, thank you. Michael Albrecht, who is the president, TVA Power, Inc., is with us, and Michael Lee sitting right beside me as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
This is firstgov.gov, where we're obsessed with getting you government information.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration. Where's your uncle?
So in the end, it was either take the astronaut gig or come work here. What can I say? Duty called.
Dude, that's my cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that's Sam's cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. Sam's. No.
Just log on or email us and get what you need.
C, change of address form. That's how it's done.
D, driver's license renewal.
E, emailing Social Security information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice, we'll allow it. All right, Ed.
What are those?
Government surplus cars for auction.
You posted those online last time.
No, you did.
I'm posting them online this time!
For all your government information, firstgov.gov.
Oh, what have we got here? Sometimes you feel tired. You can't seem to lose those extra pounds off your midsection. And your joints hurt when you take the stairs. Well, you're getting older. But I'm happy to say that there's some simple things we can do to keep you happy and healthy for years to come. We can also lower your risk for some serious diseases the older population is often subject to. Proper nutrition is more important than ever. Your body has changed, you know. Not as many treats. A basic exercise plan, lots of walks and fresh air, and most importantly, come and see me for twice-yearly checkups to help ensure the best possible quality of life. Now, how does that sound? Good boy.
Improve the quality of life for your elderly pet. Schedule twice-yearly checkups that include preventive care and regular lab work. A message from the veterinary members of the American Animal Hospital Association.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. and the United States as we're looking around in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move towards 2050. And why 2050? It's because we'll be adding 2 billion more people on the planet, and so we need to be able to provide a quality of life for all these people and yet increase the quality and standard of living for all those that are here on the planet at this time. So, and we have some people working on this. Again, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet and also the Director of Host of the Emerald Planet TV. Thank you for being with us. And Albert Al C. Rich is going to be coming in. I think a mixture of Skype and telephone, I've been told by the technical staff. He is the president and founder of ACR Solar International Corporation. Understand they have outstanding solar panels being manufactured in the United States. And sitting right beside me, special guest, is Michael G. Lee, goes by Mike, and he's senior partner of Tower Up Consulting. And I have to throw in, he and I have been working together about almost 6 or 7 years now, what we call the Power for Peace. But Al, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Sam, and it's such a great pleasure to be on air with you and Lee and this great team.
Well, it's just wonderful, and we're learning much and doing much. And thank you for being with us. And if we can bring up the first slide here, we'll show actually some of the panels that you've been developing. But I want to start off with the question of what is the mission and vision of ACR Solar International Corporation, and then we'll get into the technologies and how you're actually working with the various Native American nations around the United States.
Well, thank you very much for that question. The vision and mission of ACR Solar International is driven by a very strong commitment to environmental stewardship and the reduction of environmental pollution by being an innovation leader in the mass production of low-cost, state-of-the-art solar heating products.
Now, looking at the solar thermal, I think this is the product that you're referring to, and we see some of your panels in the system here right in front of us in this visual. What is solar thermal? Because many people know of solar panels, but people think they're all generic, they're all the same, but there's actually a very profound difference.
Yes, there is. Solar thermal, actually they're called solar thermal collectors, and the technology in the U.S. goes way back to the beginning of the 20th century. You know, my dad saw solar water heating collectors on buildings in Miami, where it all started. There were, it was going great guns, then natural gas got cheap, and it all went away, unfortunately. And then it came back when fuel costs started going up again in the Jimmy Carter era, and then went away quite a bit. Solar pool heating was active, and then the solar thermal has started to come back again with the tax credits. And it's very different than the solar electric. In the solar electric, they call solar electric panels, and they directly make electricity. Is there a back feed somewhere?
Yes, just keep going.
Okay. So the direct conversion of the sun's energy basically sun's energy comes in as shortwave radiation, and when it hits the surface, which would be the absorber underneath the glazing or the clear covering on a solar collector, it's directly converted to shortwave radiation, which is heat. And we have special coatings on the copper fins and that allow for higher efficiency in the conversion of this heat and bringing it down to a storage tank. In the cases of on the Navajo Nation, when it's very cold, we use a freeze protection such as propylene glycol or something that's called drain back, where the water simply drains back into the tank at night so the collectors can't freeze. So we it's a really simple technology, and that's one of the beauties of it. It's something that's perfect for use in the extreme cold, and my experience on Extreme Makeover Home Edition with Mark Snyder was truly extreme. And everything, the whole structure, the batteries, the lighting, the storage, all have to be very definitely acclimated to that harsh climate.
Look, and that's a great explanation of the solar thermal, and I'm going to let Mike Lee ask the next question so we can have a direct comparison of the different technologies. Michael?
I would like to have you explain very clearly what the difference between solar thermal and solar electric is. I know you were touching on a couple of areas there, but if you could explain for our audience the difference between the two.
Sure. My pleasure. Well, solar electric uses a panel where when the sun converts it to electricity, it basically makes the kind of power that you would use for your lighting, for your computer, for any other electronics, basically anything you plug in. Solar thermal would be basically anything that you use to heat, to wash your hands, take a shower, do your laundry, that sort of thing. So it's a fundamental difference between electricity and the basic heat that's generated from the sun. Solar photovoltaic is starting to come on very, very strong, and the prices have come down marvelously. They're about 15 to 18% efficient in the conversion of the sun's energy into electricity, whereas solar thermal runs closer to 45 to 70% efficient. So there's what's called a power density of solar thermal is significantly greater, and so the cost for the energy unit is lower. Although frankly the difference is shrinking.
I tell you, that's a great explanation. And you're talking about your father had been in business, the solar thermal, turn of the century. This is the last century, of course. And but tell us a little more about this, the in and out as far as the policy is concerned, and how that's directly impacted. Because it sounds like the United States was very advanced as far as this solar thermal, and we could be much more energy independent if we had pursued it instead of just waxing and waning depending on the price of natural gas or some other fossil fuels. It sounds like that's really a failed policy as far as having a real national policy and a real future for the United States with renewables.
Dr. Sam, that is extremely true. Had what was started back in the 1910s and 20s continued through, the amount of energy and pollution that would have been saved is enormous. When you consider the enormous amount of energy that's used in commercial process heat, residential heat, heating of homes, all that, had that carried through, yes, indeed, we surely would be in far better shape than we are today. This energy can be very independent. It doesn't even need grid connection. It can operate off of small photovoltaic panels. In the case of the IMPUS homes, it just operates off of the power that's generated right on site. And the marvelous combination of the solar electric and the solar thermal is an incredible solution in these situations. And Mark and his team and working with Elsa, and I had such a great pleasure of meeting the both at the Yazzie Home project. What they're doing there, I have my hats off. It's a marvelous thing. It needs to continue. It needs to grow, and it needs to be supported.
I want to follow on with that, Al, as far as the work that you're doing with the Navajo and the Hopi Nations and the fact of creating green jobs. So what is it that you're doing as far as ACR Solar International to create these green jobs and to really blend these technologies together as far as the solar thermal and the solar electric?
Well, I started off in solar thermal in 1979, and from the onset it was a marvelous technology, but the problem was it was a very heavy product and a very difficult product to deal with, and so I tackled that head on. As you can see, there's some commercial products behind you there. We made these panels much lighter. They weigh about less than half of what the other panels weigh. They're easy to handle. We made them so they're practical, basically, and so that installing them is much easier and safer, especially, with folks that aren't all that familiar with the product. Carrying around something that weighs 160 pounds as opposed to something that weighs 38 pounds is a significant difference. So basically, our product is one that is perfect. We hope to do some with manufacturing and help create employment in the Navajo and Indian Nations, and that's something very, very important to us. And whatever we can do to support that, and Mark is kind of pulling the oars there and making it happen. And we truly love being a part of the fact that we've been able to be on those IMPUS homes right now, and we want to see many more of them, and we want to support and provide the product and the training and work on getting the facilities and everything that it takes to get real manufacturing in these homes and areas, so we can have true economic development, which is really needed down there. We need that employment. We need the flow of money going into these nations. Indian Nations, and it's
well, we're running out of time, Al, and as we know, in some of the nations, they may be the unemployment among the youth maybe as high as 80%. Even the general employment situation may be as high as 50% unemployment rate. So the work that you're doing, and then of course Mark Snyder of Mark Snyder Electric and Crown Battery and the others are working together. It's really fantastic. We're down to about 20 seconds. What do you see for the future of your organization over the next 5, 10, 15 years when we have to be quick?
Well, thank you. We definitely need to work hard to keep the costs down, to be able to serve more people, and to provide a product that is superior and creative ways. We've got new products called Omega Mat and other things that we're coming up with, and we're excited about launching them. Well,
thank you for being with us, Albert Al C. Rich. He is the president and founder of ACR Solar International Corporation. And we have Michael Lee sitting right beside me. Michael, thank you for being with us on the Emerald Planet, for being with us. And thank you, viewers, for being with us and learning about all these new technologies that are happening on the nations, and thank you as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you.